സയൻസ് ആൻഡ് ടെക്നോളജി എന്ന വിഷയത്തിൽ കൂടുതൽ അറിവുകൾ പകർന്നു തരാനായി സജി ഗോപിനാഥിനെ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യാം.
സജി ഗോപിനാഥ്, സ്റ്റാർട്ടപ്പ് മിഷന്റെ ചീഫ് എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് ഓഫീസർ, കേരള ഡിജിറ്റൽ സർവകലാശാലയുടെ ആദ്യ വൈസ് ചാൻസലർ, ടെക്നോപാർക്ക് ആസ്ഥാനമായ ഇന്ത്യൻ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ഓഫ് ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ ടെക്നോളജി ആൻഡ് മാനേജ്മെന്റ് കേരളയുടെ ഡയറക്ടർ. സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യാം ഏറെ ആദരവോടും അഭിമാനത്തോടും സ്നേഹത്തോടും കൂടി 88ാമത് ശിവഗിരി ആഗോള ഓൺലൈൻ തീർത്ഥാടനത്തിലെ ശാസ്ത്ര സാങ്കേതിക പരിശീലന സമ്മേളനത്തിലേക്ക് കേരള സ്റ്റാർട്ടപ്പ് മിഷൻ മുൻ സിഇഒ ഡോക്ടർ സജി ഗോപിനാഥ്.
Let me wish all the devotees who are participating in this 88th Shivagiri Tirthadanam a very blissful experience as usual. So as we know that this journey for comprehensive creation of knowledge which Gurudeva has bestowed on us is actually giving us an opportunity to interact and share the type of changes which is happening around us. We know that we are actually undergoing a period of disruption. Substantial amount of changes is happening around us, and one of the key elements of that is how do we cope with these changes happening, specifically driven by technology and other things. So I would like to speak on this topic of how the world is changing and how we should adopt ourselves to these changes so that to get overall development and prosperity which Gurudeva has told us years back. Specifically, we will look at the changes which is brought in by the technologies and how we need to reorient ourselves to adopt to these technological changes. So when we speak about the disruption, we speak about changes happening in various walks of life. If you take our history, we know that every time a major change has happened driven by some of the technological means. In the previous century, in 18th century, it was primarily the steam engines, the electricity, the locomotives which actually made changes in all walks of life. It is not that this technology is useful only in one particular specific walk of life, but it actually spread across various levels. We know that how electricity has made the difference in the man's life. When you come to the last century, we have seen in the early part of it, the invention of internal combustion engines and the automobiles, which actually led to mass production systems, newer large factories. It actually redefined many of our traditional industries. It redefined the agriculture, it redefined the way people move, the people travel, and even the world becomes almost a single whole. The part of the last century, especially the fag end of the last century, in the last 2 or 3 decades, we have seen the emergence of electronics, the Silicon Revolution, which typically called as the Industry Revolution 3, driven by communication, explosive developments in communication and computers. We have seen how the life is actually changed and moved around a new machine which actually redefined the way we speak to each other, we communicate with each other, we do our work, and many of our other fields. This third industrial revolution was primarily the step for us to move from what we commonly known as a industrial economy to a knowledge economy. Now we are in the brink of the next industrial revolution. We call it as a fourth industrial revolution. Before coming to the fourth industrial revolution and how that is actually making changes around us, let's briefly look at these 3 revolutions in little bit more perspective. Each of these revolutions have actually brought in economic growth, it brought in prosperity, it brought in changes in life, but also it brought in challenges to people who have not adopted it. We know that the prominence of Europe in the 18th century was primarily because of the early adoption of industrial world technologies. The American economy grew primarily driven by what they call the machine that changed the world, or the automobile economy of the last century. China and some of the Southeast Asian countries and American prominence become much more prominent during the end of the last century, because most of the digital economy world has been driven by the innovations happened in that such part of the world. So each of these revolutions actually brought in prosperity and growth and wealth to different part of the nations. Not looking at the negative part of it, obviously every technology has got its own positives and negatives. We'll speak about that at the end. But coming back to the rate of adoption of these technologies, that is something which I think we may have to be very, very cautious about. It took almost 200 years for textile technology and the locomotive and the electrical technology to spread across the world. If you look at the typical S curve of adoption, where a technology comes, it actually grows on adoption fast and then it matures. So that's why it resembles the letter S. So we call it an S model of adoption. From an introduction of a technology to the technology becoming mature, it was almost 200 years for technologies of the first industrial revolution. In the second industrial revolution, which is primarily driven by the automobile and mass production economies, it took again around 100 years for the world war it to mature. There are increments of development happen even after that, but typically the technology matured in around 100 years. When you come to the electronic technology, the cycle has actually reduced further. It took only around 40 to 50 years for it to spread across the world. We ourselves know that when it comes to adoption of a computers by us, and you compare that with mobile technology, how the life cycle for adoption has actually shrunk substantially during this period of time. Now comes the fourth industrial revolution. So this shrinking time of technology is basically what makes the fourth industrial revolution and the changes which is happening today very, very significant. A host of new technologies which actually converges conventionally different worlds, which could be a physical world, a digital world, or a biological world together, is basically one of the key elements of this fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution technologies includes the artificial intelligence, the blockchain, the cyber security, the synthetic biology, the quantum computing, and many of them which are actually completely rethinking the way we are actually doing various parts of our business, various parts of our other vocations as such. Now this complete rethinking is actually makes this new wave of technology very interesting. Let us understand this with an example. We know that in the maybe 100 years back, many of the jobs were being done using physical labor or animal labor, be it farming, be it transportation, be it many other vocations. We have a substantial amount of physical labor in a part of it. So we have horse carts and bullock carts, we have the animals plowing our fields, etc. But when an automobile or a mechanical technology came into existence, thanks to the early industrial revolutions, this has changed substantially. You have seen that machines can actually replace humans or human physical labor at multiple levels at scale. Many of the jobs which used physical labor actually being replaced by the machines. We can call it as automation. But automation also brought in several new jobs and several new openings and opportunities for the people. Now, just like the early revolutions has actually replaced the human physical labor, it is expected that the digital revolution or the new wave of technology is going to replace what we use our mind to do this, our cognitive ability to do it. The service jobs, which forms the majority of the jobs in today's world economy, are actually facing a threat of extinction. Even today, there are many jobs which maybe 10 years or 15 years back has been done by human beings using their cognition is actually being replaced by the machines. When you actually book a ticket in an airline or when you file a complaint in a site, or when you even do a share trading, or when you actually make a call to a restaurant, the reply comes many times often not from a human being but by a machine, which we call as a software robots or software bots. So this rapid replacement of human labor, where humans were using their mind power or their cognitive power to do the service level jobs, is actually getting replaced by machines. The scale of this is actually the one which one should be concerned about. Just like a tractor actually replaced several bullocks and made the agriculture much more productive and much more efficient, or just like a JCB actually replaced a lot of human labor in earth moving work, a software bot or an artificial intelligence enabled solution can actually replace many of the low-end service jobs at a much higher levels of efficiency and scale. So the question in front of us is that we have a challenge that these technologies are going to make a big inway into our world and actually going to make changes. But there is a positive aspect to it. The positive aspect of it is that if we look at the past, the technologies of the past were always only for the privileged. There is always a have and have not which happened in the technologies. The newer technologies are more democratic. The access to that is easier. The nature of technology itself do not demand substantial amount of hardware, substantial amount of physical resources, but a digital access is possible. Even the business models of the companies which leads today many times support such sort of democratic access and across the world. This makes the next set of technological revolution very, very relevant. The relevance of the new world is how do we access and how do you bring about solutions for various problems. The second aspect of it, which is very relevant, especially when you look at Gurudeva's preachings way back in, is very relevant using this new technology. Because these new technologies actually have an exponential growth, and in the process, they actually find problems which were haunting us for years. So the exponential solutions for exponential problems is what the new technology is actually forcing us or giving us. In other words, we are actually moving from a world which was conventionally considered to be a world of shortages to a world of abundance. So the movement from a world of shortages to a world of abundance is an area which actually we need to be aware of and we need to actually excel on. How do we actually make a world of abundance? A world of abundance is basically where people have got resources, people are able to use it without much cost, without much effort. And this happened because along with these technological changes, there are some cultural changes which is happening around us. Most of the new technologies are not developed by individuals, but by group of individuals. More so, many of them are doing it on a voluntary basis. And you have a new set of an economic rules which has come where people share, people collaborate from different parts of the world to make sure that the solutions which addresses the perennial problems for us, be it poverty, be it lack of cleanliness or water, be it the challenges of pollution, these issues are actually the global problems are actually getting addressed through technologies. Because of this, the technologies are also becoming cheaper day by day. So these two aspects, the digital access which makes it accessible to the people, it translates to the development as well as deployment happens more on a voluntary mode by people across the world, actually makes this a very interesting and a very different domain altogether. This positiveness of this element, the positiveness that it actually brings in changes and solutions to the problems, is actually supplemented by another very important aspect which we need to look at. It also disrupts many of the conventional ways of working. I have said some time back how some of our conventional jobs are actually getting changed when machines actually replaces human cognitive labor. But it also redefines some of the conventional rules and procedures. Some time back, when you think about creating an organization or a company, what comes to our mind is typically the factors of production: the land, a large amount of labor, lot of capital, and things like that. Now, these factors of production actually makes that if you really wanted to start a large company or a large business enterprise or something which is providing wealth and support prosperity to people, you require a huge amount of land and a huge amount of resources. That world is gone today. The world is moving to a world where you can actually create very sustainable enterprises with very low geographical footprints. You can actually create $1 billion company perhaps from a 10,000 square feet space. Now, this is something which makes it very, very ideal for us to start looking at it. Many conventional problems are actually getting solved by people who have got very limited resources but an innovative thinking and innovative mindset to do it. Even we have seen when we are interacting today substantially using digital media from physical, many of the things which were done physically, maybe just a year back, be it a classroom, be it a discussion meeting, or be it even a family get-together, we are actually uses now this set of technologies. And many of these technologies are actually developed by innovators, individual innovators who actually provided the convenience using the technology. So the disruption is happening in such fields which actually help people to connect each other. In fact, today in this Tirthadanam itself, a large number of people could actually participate even without physically being physically being there. And that is basically what technology has brought in. The technology has actually allowed us to connect from various parts of the world, to come together and be a part of this Tirthadanam. Now, such changes is something which makes the newer world very exciting. And more so, the newer world also provide opportunities for each of us to come out with solutions which of the problems of society around us. In other words, you can all be the leaders of this new technology. And that is basically how we will do it, going to make a difference. This is basically where a new concept called disruptive innovation is going to be relevant. The technological advancement become relevant only if it actually solves the social problems. Gurudev has told this way back. Now, how do we actually look at disruptive innovation? A disruptive innovation happens when we actually look at people who have not benefited from a change and ask the question why they have not benefited from the change. The answer to that many times is that the change or the means of change is not affordable to them, or the developmental effort which has been put is so costly that people cannot afford it. But the question we need to ask is, what makes this very costly? You may require high-end resources, you may require high-end assets and things like that. The shared economy which the new world is actually brought in actually solves many of these. You have people from different parts of the world coming together, share their resources, share their intellectual resources, share their physical resources, so the cost of resources actually coming down. You have commonly shared assets. Rather than each of us buying an asset, collectively we will buy an asset, maybe hosted somewhere in the world, and then use that, which again reduces the cost of the assets which we may have to facilitate this transition. In this way, we will be able to make it low cost, easily accessible, and addresses people who otherwise did not have access to this. Think about this. Most of the product and services today people uses, there is a large chunk of people who cannot afford it. Take education, for example. Even though there is a substantial amount of growth in education in India, Even today, close to around 70% of the people in India don't have access to higher education. And even if they have access to education, the quality of education is a challenge. But that is the thing of the past. Today, sitting in any part of India or any part of the world for that matter, you can access the best education available in other part of the world. The newer models like massive open online courses, the online education, etc., made it a person with a limited resource availability, maybe a mobile phone, maybe a simple internet connection, can actually access maybe the best universities in the world, can actually interact with the best browsers in the world. This is just one example. The similar examples we can find in many cases as such. So the technology at one end provides you, which actually disrupt your conventional jobs, forces you to make changes in the way we work, the changes in the way our jobs are getting redefined. The other side of it, it also provides a big opportunity for us to disruptively innovate, to look at creating new models, creating new methods in almost every occasion. Think about media, for example. Till recently, if you have a capability to develop something, you really require a large infrastructure to do it. You require a much bigger infrastructure to tell that to the world. That world is gone. You have today platforms where an individual can actually communicate to the world in a very effective manner, be it a YouTube channel, be it any of the other platforms, which are all easily accessible to you. So all these made the shift of focus from very large, which was happening in the past, in the last centuries about very large, to a world of very small. And that is basically what technology has brought in. And this allows excellence at individual levels. That's why I said some time back, the new world allows us an opportunity for individuals to be leaders, and provided they have the right skills to us. So now the last point which we need to discuss is that if there is a technological revolution which is happening, which disrupts our conventional jobs and vocations, at the same time it provides opportunities through collaboration, opportunities to look at the problems around us and to come out with solutions which benefit the society and the self in that process. How do we actually ensure that we will be able to make use of it? This is basically where the education or technical training becomes a very relevant thing. Gurudev has told this as one of the very key elements which one have to focus. How do we actually make sure that our skills are actually being honed to address the challenges which the new world is posing? For this, our education process needs a transformation. There are changes happening across the world where the education processes are getting changed. Education processes are actually being liberated so that the educator or the learner actually have a lot of power. Even in our country, the new education reforms are actually speaking about how do we actually liberate the learner and to make them effectively use it. But to make sure that this is effectively being used, the whole education makes meaning when you have three elements to that. These three elements are the ones which actually help one to acquire the skills and to be on the top of the revolution, to lead the revolution rather than being challenged by it. These three skills are A, the knowledge skill, what we call as the knowing. One have to know about the technology, one have to know about the opportunities the technology provides, one have to know how to tame the technology for positive good. That's basically what the knowledge, knowing part of it. It also enable a person to advance the technology further, advance the knowledge further. Typically, the education in the colleges, education in the schools, education with the gurus actually help you to do that knowing part very well. But knowing alone will not make education complete. The second part of it is you need to do it. So the knowing is supplemented by doing. So technological education especially cannot be practiced only at the theoretical level. It has to be translated into practice. You need to experiment this. You need to actually start working with it. If I'm working on one of the newer technologies, like say blockchain or artificial intelligence, you need to actually start developing solutions with that. You need to actually start looking at problems and start applying that. It could be done on a laboratory settings. It could be done within the college education itself. But knowing to doing become equally important as knowing in the new world. Conventionally, we were having a thought process where the knowledge and skills were not coming together. There were education which focuses only on the knowledge but not on the skills. Technological world is very different. The knowledge and skills comes together, and that is basically where the second part of it. The third part of it, which becomes a very important element, is the being part of it, the spiritual part of it, the part which makes the technology meaningful to everybody. Technology, like Alvin Toffler has said, is like a knife. It depends upon where you hold. If you hold on the blade, it bleeds. If you hold on the handle, you can use it. Again, how do you use a knife also is important. You can use it to cut the strings. You can also use it for nefarious purposes also. So that is basically where your concept of the being comes into existence. So especially when a technology is moving very fast, you have opportunities and you have opportunities of destruction also. So how do we actually move away from the negative aspects of technology and use a technology for human good? How do you use a technology for the wealth and prosperity of the humans? That is basically where the being part comes. The ethics, the values which drive the adoption of technology becomes very relevant in this context. How do I make my knowledge available to anybody, everybody in the world? We know that we use a substantial amount of knowledge from the internet, which is developed by somebody else, and they shared it with us. We need to ask the question that, can I actually share my knowledge, the development which I have done, the movement which I have done, the solutions which I have developed for maybe a problem near me to the other part of the world? That makes the being very complete. So these three things, that knowing, doing and being, together makes the challenge of the new technology a positive challenge. Rather than worried about whether technology is going to disrupt, whether it is going to take away the jobs, the stride in which we may have to actually move is to ask the question that, how do I tame this? How do I actually use this to address a large number of problems which the society is facing? And I think years back, Gurudeva has asked us to do that. In his preachings, in this Tirthadanam, that is the objective of us. How do we actually look at the changes? How do you look at these opportunities and create good for all around us? The new technology revolution provides us all promise for doing it. How do we adopt it and how do we do it is going to be the key element, whether we are going to lead it or whether we are going to get sidelined with this. And I'm sure that India as a country was never at the top of any technology revolutions for various reasons. When the first technology revolution came and second technology revolution came, we were under a foreign rule. So naturally, we could not take a giant leap in driving that. When the third technology revolution came, primarily the knowledge revolution came, substantial amount of effort has been put by our brethren. The leadership role Indian IT companies have done in the field is a good example of that. But to lead further in the fourth industrial revolution, where all these physical, digital, biological world are coming together, is a challenge in front of us. And as I said some time back, this is something which redefine and make the human life a better place and make the earth a better place to live. I'm sure that many of the sustainable development goals of what has been put for the global good can be achieved if this technology can actually be used in a proper manner. I'm sure that many of you are already attempting this. Many of you have interesting solution to that. Let us work together to ensure that the world is a better place in the days to come. Thank you very much for a patient listening. Thank you. you.